Hazrat Ibrahim in Arabic, also known as Abul Anbiya, father of the prophets, was a very noble and pious man and a prophet of Allah. He is accepted and revered by three major religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism.
He was born in present-day Iraq. He lived there but later migrated by the command of Almighty Allah. It's difficult to tell exactly when he lived, but according to Hazrat Maud anhu, his advent was between 2200 to 2500 years before the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The Holy Quran in Surah Al-Safat states that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was, in fact, a descendant of Hazrat Noah alayhi salam. And verily, of his party was also Abraham.
Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was sent to a people who worshipped idols and stars. We know that he married 3 times. His first wife was Hazrat Sarah, who was a close relative of his. Then at the age of 85, he married Hazrat Hajira alayhi salam, who was a royal lady from Egypt. And his third wife was Hazrat Ketura alayhi salam. The first child who was born to Abraham alayhi salam from Hajira alayhi salam was Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam. After the birth of Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam, Hazrat Sarah bare Hazrat Ishaq alayhi salam to Prophet Abraham alayhi salam. Both sons became recipient of Allah's blessing, and as we know, Allah Almighty established their prophethood. The descendant of Hazrat Ishaq alayhi salam came to be known as Banu Israel, and the descendant of Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam came to be known as Banu Ismail, among whom came the greatest man to walk the earth, the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Abraham was brought up at the home of his uncle Azar. His paternal uncle ran a shop selling idols. Abraham observed the crafting of idols at his uncle's home that was ultimately sold to the public for worshipping. One day, his uncle left him at the shop to attend to some customers. An old man came to the shop and said, "I want to buy an idol." Abraham, peace be upon him, asked him, "Which one would you like to have?" Abraham, peace be upon him, showed him an idol, and he was about to buy that idol when Abraham asked the man, "How old are you?" The man replied, 70 years. Upon this, Abraham, peace be upon him, told him, "This idol was made only yesterday. Won't you feel ashamed while bowing down before a day-old idol?" These words of Abraham had a great effect on the old man, and he did not buy the idol and went home. Such was the dislike of Abraham alayhi salam to idol worship during his youth. He would voice out his displeasure time and again. In the beginning, he argued with his uncle very politely, but later on, he had very bitter arguments with his uncle. His uncle mostly ignored such religious discussions, but later on, he warned Abraham of severe consequences. He spoke in public and in private about the futility of idol worship. His method of argumentation was mostly sarcastic.
Interestingly, the word Abraham is said to come from Abrama, meaning the one who reinforces something. Abrama is a good speaker and a debater who can explain his meaning to others and render them speechless. The word, found in Hebrew, is also used in the Bible, although it is of Arabic origin. Hazrat Maud anhu has argued in his commentary of the Holy Quran, Tafsir Kabir, that Allah caused Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi to be named so by his father, thereby pointing to a hidden prophecy that he would possess great oratory skills, expressing his views in front of his opponents with such excellence that they would be rendered incapable of a retort.
The Holy Quran highlights this fact and narrates an incident where Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi who was young at that time, broke the idol in order to expose and demonstrate their weaknesses. He broke all the idol but left one still. When the people saw their idol broken into pieces, they inquired about who did so. Upon finding out Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi was behind this, they called him and asked him if he had broken the idols. In response, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi exposing the weakness of the idol, said that somebody surely had done so. So ask that one which was still not broken and see if it can speak.
During his life, Abraham went through various trials which are mentioned in the Holy Quran. When he had convinced his people that these idols were false gods, they decided to throw him in the fire.
Build for him a structure and cast him into the fire.
So a fire was kindled for him and he was thrown into it. But he had complete faith in Allah the Almighty. Whereas human nature demanded that he would cry out and shout for help, the only words on his lips were, Allah is sufficient for me and He is an excellent guardian.
Then Allah said, Turn cold, O fire, and be a source of peace for Abraham.
Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi had reached the age of 85 but was still childless. He earnestly supplicated Allah for righteous progeny. Allah accepted his prayer and granted him a son. Hazrat Ismail alayhi was yet a child when, in obedience to divine commandment and in fulfillment of divine plan, Hazrat Ibrahim left him and his mother in a barren desert. Although this was a great trial for him, he obeyed this order without any protest and prayed with great perseverance.
After settling Hazrat Ismail alayhi and Hazrat Hajra in Bakka, Hazrat Ibrahim would often travel back and forth to meet them. When Ismail was old enough to work with his father, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi saw in a dream that he was slaughtering his son. This incident is mentioned in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Saffat. I will read you the exact text. And when he was old enough to work with him, he said, O my dear son, I have seen in a dream that I am slaughtering thee. So consider what thou thinkest of it. He replied, O my father, do as thou art commanded. Thou wilt find me, if Allah please, steadfast in my faith. Thus, as Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi had laid his son down to fulfill the dream, an angel of Allah called unto him and said, Thou hast indeed fulfilled the dream. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi was then commanded to release Hazrat Ismail alayhi and to sacrifice a ram in his stead.
Speaking of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi, the Holy Quran declares, Abraham was indeed a paragon of virtue, obedient to Allah, ever inclined to Him, and he was not of those who set up equals to God. Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anh has taken 6 qualities of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi from this verse. Hazrat Ibrahim was a teacher of good. He taught the world goodness. He was Jamiul Khair, which means the embodiment of goodness. Allah Almighty gave him the title of Ummah, which meant that he possessed all kinds of moral virtues. His nature hid the forces of tremendous growth from which it was possible to create nations. He was Qanit. He was obedient to Allah and constantly prayed to Him. He was Hanif, he had tremendous power and never deviated from the path of truth. He was not polytheistic and firmly adhered to monotheism.
Allah told the Holy Prophet ﷺ and his Ummah many stories of prophets in the Holy Quran. However, Muslims have been explicitly asked to follow the way of Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ, where all prophets of Allah are the torches that light up our path to Him. Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ occupies a special station in Islam.